Winter is coming and there's no more secrets. Game of Thrones Season 5 Season Overview, which means this is your official spoiler warning. I've been doing spoiler-free on my episode-by-episodes. That's out the window. I'm talking the whole thing now. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to start on this, and I'm probably going to be jumping around a little bit all over the place. But I will say one thing that I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the Ramsay-Sansa wedding, because I did a whole video about that just so I would not have to talk about it here. So if you want to know what I thought about that, check that video out. I suppose the one add-on I will on that particular thing is it did lead to some development, and it did, I don't want to say it paid off very heavily, but it did develop into some things, so it didn't feel like it was for nothing the way that the Jaime Cersei thing in Season 4 was. That said, I still stand by what I say there, and I think that the way that it was depicted was still gratuitous and unnecessary. But moving on from that, why don't we start over across the Narrow Sea, and let's talk about everything that went on there. Daenerys was really weird for me this season. I had a hard time sort of wrapping my head around her. I don't know if they've been trying to make her more enigmatic, but I'm just having a harder time getting a read on her and what she's doing and why she's doing it. The only thing that I can come up with that kind of makes sense to me is that as her advisors were getting picked off, or she had banished them or whatever, she just seemed to lose her grasp as far as what it was she was supposed to be doing. I think we got a sense that her advisors were a big part of why she was so successful. I mean, she had, her firm morals, she had her dragons, she had her Unsullied, but though she had some pretty firm guiding hands as well. And once those were gone, she really kind of floundered, both as a leader and a bit as a character. Which is why finally getting Tyrion showing up there really felt good. And I love the first scene with the two of them just sitting down and talking. That is an amazing scene, and I love it. I also really like where we leave Tyrion, which is where I liked him best, which is in control. Basically, I mean, they make it very clear they're basically going to be calling upon him to do in Meereen what he did at King's Landing when he was the Hand of the King. And he was awesome doing that. So that makes me really excited for what's going to happen with him next season. Now that said, getting him there up until he finally sat down with Daenerys, Tyrion's whole story really, boy, that when I talked about spinning wheels, that was something that was really kind of at the forefront of my mind, because think about it here. He's on his way to Meereen with Varys to find Daenerys, and he gets kidnapped by Ser Jorah, who's gonna take him to Daenerys, okay? And then they get captured by these slavers and convince the slavers to take them to Meereen, where Daenerys is. So he was going someplace, got kidnapped by someone who's still gonna take him there, and then the two of them got kidnapped by a group that was still gonna take him to the same place he was just going. That's really unnecessary. I mean, I know it got Ser Jorah back into the mix, and I do like him. Although the whole thing with the Stone Men and the grayscale, I'm not loving. Because first of all, it just seemed really weird for how knowledgeable he seemed to be about this whole part of the world. The fact that he even put them in a situation where they were going to be near these guys just strikes me as out of character in the first place. And for no reason other than just to get him infected so that he now becomes a ticking clock. And that was the sort of thing what I mentioned in one of my reviews, just the show really going out of its way to bend around and do things that didn't really make sense just so we could have certain elements, like a character who was now infected with grayscale. I mean, the show went way out of its way so that could happen, and I mean, we'll see how it pays off eventually, but I don't know if it's going to be worth what we went through. There were other things that threw me off about Daenerys' storyline, aside from just herself. The whole Sons of the Harpy thing, there's a couple things that I don't like about the way that was handled. The first is how often they just seem to take apart the Unsullied, and I do blame the execution on that. I don't think the Unsullied are invincible or anything, but we've seen them be good enough, and they certainly were pumped up as good enough, that I'll believe that they get overrun with sheer numbers. But the way that the action scenes when that they're shot and all of that, it rarely looked like or felt like they were being overwhelmed with numbers. It just felt like they were getting their butts kicked. And is it just me, or in the fighting pit were they just indiscriminately killing people in the crowd? Which also makes absolutely no sense, because if they're just trying to get rid of Daenerys, why are they just killing people who are, I mean, maybe they were targeting freed slaves, but if that's what they were doing, it was not made clear. The fact that there was a rebellion in the city of Marine, cool, I'm down with that, because again, it shows more of Daenerys sort of realizing the realities of being a conqueror and then trying to rule. But the execution of it, I didn't love. And kind of on the same note, the sparrows in King's Landing. Now, I said it before and I will say it again and stand by it. The High Sparrow, Jonathan Pryce, love him. He's fantastic. He's perfect in this role. I love the feel of the character. I love how different he is from everybody else. I love how much he throws everybody off their game because he is so sincere about what he's doing. He's not playing a game. He's not doing the political sparring that everyone's used to. I like him. The Sparrows as a group, I don't like, just because part of it has to do with how quickly things turned around. I don't love the fact that it was like 1 minute there's this sort of little religious thing that's going on, and the next thing they're like the Spanish Inquisition. Which I suppose brings me to Cersei and what happens to her in the last episode, which I'm honestly not entirely sure what I think about that. What I will say is what it did do that I like is that it's now given Cersei a reason to be the cold-hearted bitch we know she's so good at being. Because at the very end, when reanimated Gregor picks her up, and the look on her face is like, I'm gonna destroy them. And she's always had that thing of, I'm gonna destroy them. But it's part of why I've never really been completely on board with Cersei as a character for a lot of her use in this series, because she's just so petty. I mean, she's in power, she's in control, and she's just squishing people because they annoy her a little bit. But now she's got a reason. I mean, she's got good justification to want to tear people apart now, and I kind of like that better. Over in Dorne, that was another sort of, it felt like spinning wheels that went nowhere kind of thing. The Sand Snakes just felt like nothing. Now, I love the scene that happens in the jail between Bronn and the one, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but I love that scene. I love his singing, I love their interaction, but I don't feel that scene alone is enough to justify the inclusion of the Sand Snakes, because, you know, their fight scene with Jaime and Bronn was such a mess. That was the one I complained about because I couldn't tell what was going on, because we got the 3 Sand Snakes who look the same fighting Bronn and Jaime who are dressed the same. So I hated that. I hated how quickly the Sand Snakes got caught, and the woman who was leading them sort of got busted. And I guess she got her revenge on Marcella, which it was sad given what happened. You know, Jaime had his moment with her, which was a sweet moment, and then she keels over pretty much immediately. So I think it plays out well. I just I'm not sure it had much of an impact on me aside from just, oh, well, that's kind of sad. But again, it feels overly wheel spinning because now it's like, well, does that sort of take Dorne out of this whole thing as a player? Because now that woman has gotten the revenge she wanted, and the Sand Snakes were just sort of in it with her, so they won? Yay? I don't know, it's like the first storyline I can think of for the show that's like, that seems a little bit too easy. Since I mentioned Dorne, we're talking about islands, let's talk Braavos. I am liking Arya's story, and I'm liking where it's going, and I like sort of where it ends up in the last episode, that she gets her first bit of really personally getting revenge that she's been trying to get for a while, and then kind of being punished for it. It bummed me out a little to sort of see that happening, and it's like, boy, so that's the only bit of personal revenge she's gonna get in this show, because now she's really gotta do what she's supposed to do in this place, and I don't know if that blindness is gonna stick or not, but I'm really curious to see what'll happen with her, definitely. It was a while getting there, though. Hers was another story that felt a little bit wheel spinning, because I get that she had to go through, you know, a while, and it had to take time, and she couldn't just instantly be learning their tricks, but, you know, watching her just sweep the temple and clean a body, they just had her doing the same things over and over and over again for at least one too many episodes. Let's work our way north a little bit. Let's get to Winterfell, which brings us to the Boltons. Sansa, Ramsay did that. I do really like what happened in the season finale with Sansa and Theon. I'm a little bit annoyed that Theon couldn't have had that moment against Ramsay himself, although I guess, you know, baby steps, he wouldn't have been able to do it if Ramsay was there, but I smiled real big when he threw that chick over the ledge, because since she was obviously really attracted to Ramsay, and she seemed like kind of cut from the same cloth. It was a little bit by proxy. Felt a little bit like he was taking down a part of Ramsay, and that kind of felt good. I'll be interested to see what picks up with them. I mean, yeah, they jumped off a wall, but they jumped off a wall into what I'm assuming was freshly fallen snow, so I'm not presuming death on them. Since we're up in this neck of the woods, let's talk Stannis. I'm really glad he's dead, and what's more, I like the way he died. Because second to last episode, when he killed Shireen, that instantly made me hate him. I wanted him to die. I wanted him to die more than Ramsay. I wanted him to die more than Joffrey. Joffrey, as far as we can tell, was just born wrong. He's just inherently evil, wicked little prick. Stannis has a conscience, has a moral center. He has these things that, so far as we can tell, Joffrey just never had. So when he chooses to override those and ignore his paternal instincts as a father and have that woman burn his daughter and listen to her scream for him and not do anything, oh, I am so glad that not only did he die, but his prayers went unanswered. Just like his daughter's screams for him to save her went unanswered. And just his realization that this is not going to happen the way he wanted it to happen. That what he did got him nothing. Good. Glad he's dead. The fact that Brienne of Tarth was the one who got to kill him was not as rewarding for me as it was probably meant to feel, but if someone's going to take him out, I much prefer her to do it than Ramsay or one of the Boltons. Because that was one of the other things I said. That by making me hate Stannis, it made me not really care about the Stannis versus Ramsay conflict and that fight. But thankfully, they kind of dealt with that pretty quickly. Up at the wall and north of the wall. Well, first we had Hardhome. Wow, what an episode that was. That was still my favorite episode of the season. Even though I did really like the season finale, boy, that episode was killer. I love the action. I love the way that it was paced with, they start getting attacked by the whites. And then it's like, well, maybe they'll be okay. But then there's just this wave of them and they're just jumping off a cliff and just splattering on the ground. Then they just jump up and keep fighting. And that fight also did a much better job of making the giants look badass than the assault on the wall did last season, if I'm being honest. And Jon, it was probably about 2 years ago I said how I didn't like Jon Snow and I was bored with him and I found him uninteresting. You know what? Since that happened, he did grow on me. I did like him and I was sorry to see him go. Unfortunately, as with so many things in this show, it did get spoiled for me. Not outright, nobody just came out and told me, but just things that I caught, snippets from things people said online. If you're talking online and you're talking about spoilers, don't try and be cryptic and clever and vaguely hint at it. You know what? People pay attention and they figure it out, and it's still a spoiler whether you're cryptic about it or whether you come and say it outright. I think the way that Jon was killed was kind of fitting. I mean, it was very Julius Caesar, and then complete with a Brutus in the form of Ollie. So while I don't particularly like that Jon is gone, I think the way that it was done was pretty good. It was, I think, the right note to end the episode as a whole on. Unfortunately, I don't know how invested I'm going to be in what goes on at the wall anymore, because Sam left, Jon's dead, Davros is up there, but he's not part of the Night's Watch. I mean, I suppose if he finds out that Stannis has been killed, he might just stay there, but I don't have a lot of investment in the folks who are still up there, which makes the wall a little bit of an odd place. I don't know who our hook into caring about what's going on there is going to be. For this season, that story ended fine. I don't know where it's going to pick up and how that's going to play out and be interesting now. What else is there to talk about? Well, I didn't talk about the dragon, so I guess I'll come full circle, come back to Daenerys. When the dragon showed up in the pits, I kind of saw it coming. That one I didn't have spoiled for me. I'm just watching the scene going all right, either everyone's about to die or a dragon's about to show up. I thought that was a very cool scene. I like how he showed up. I like how the fight panned out, that it showed, these dragons are not invincible. You get enough people who are not just going to run away from it to take it on, and yeah, they could probably have taken him down if he hadn't flown off. But then where things ended up on the last episode with Daenerys, just with the Dothraki showing up, I don't know what to make of that, because I don't really know where she stands with them. I mean, yes, she was the Khaleesi, but because the Khal she was married to died, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, are they pissed at her? Do they consider that she abandoned them? Does this particular clan of Dothraki even know who she is? I mean, all they did was have a ton of Dothraki show up, but unfortunately, it's been so long since we've seen them, I don't know what that means. I don't know where they stand in all of this. So that was just an odd note to end her particular story for the season. So I guess that about wraps things up for me for this season. By the end, I was feeling much better about it. The first half of the season, even past the halfway mark, boy, things were rough. I said it in my review of the season finale. This does stand as my least favorite season. It got better at the end. I mean, episode 8 was phenomenal. Episode 9 was kind of rough for me to watch because of what happened to Shireen, but then the fact that they didn't make me wait forever in the very next episode, they give Stannis exactly what I wanted to have him happen. That makes these last 3 episodes probably the strongest set of closing episodes that the show has ever had, but the first half of the season, and you know, plus some of the little lingering things that have gone on even since then, just ate away at the impact a little bit when I look at the season as a whole. But that said, there's some stuff I'm really excited about for next season. I'm really excited for Tyrion just being in command again. I really want to see what Cersei's next move is going to be. I want to see what happens to Arya next. I want to know what Brienne of Tarth is going to do now that she's taking care of Stannis, which is, you know, one thing she really wanted to do, but she kind of unknowingly abandoned Sansa to do it. What's gonna go on with that? And what's gonna happen next with Sansa? I actually care what's gonna happen with Sansa. Whoa! Who would have called that? So I'm not gonna rank all the seasons in order, but this is my least favorite season overall. Season 4 is my favorite season. What are your favorite and least favorite seasons of this show so far out of the 5 we've gotten? Whatever they are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Until next time, this council is adjourned.